Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Dance Teacher Pep Talk. I am your host, Amanda, and I am so glad you are here. This is a space for dance teachers and anyone interested in teaching dance who is looking for motivation and fresh ideas. As teachers, we spend our days motivating and giving pep talks to our students, and now this podcast is a pep talk just for you. We hope that it helps to ignite new ideas and even work through some deep dance related thoughts before you head into the studio. Thank you for your support, and now let's get into today's episode. Hi, everybody. I hope that your day is off to a great start, and I'm so happy that you're tuning in to today's episode of Dance Teacher Pep Talk. This one, I don't know if I'd necessarily call it inspiring, but I think it's a topic that I do need to share about because I've really gone back and forth on this so much, and I've even like alluded to it in other episodes that I was going to tell this story soon, but it's kind of like I said, it's not the most inspiring type of a story, but it is a real story. And I feel that maybe by me sharing what I experienced, maybe it will help somebody out there too that might be going through something or maybe has gone through it. And so this is the story of my burnout, if you'd call it. I hesitate to use that word though, just because I feel that what I experienced might not have been as heavy or deep as somebody else's burnout. I feel like burnout is a really strong word, and I know that it can affect people in different ways. So I am just cautious around saying that word. But I was definitely the lowest point in my career, inspiration wise, and just in general. It was a tough time. And so I really wanted to share and go through this because I know that as dance teachers, burnout is a topic that comes up from time to time. And I understand why it would come up from time to time. It's because we've talked about this so much on this podcast already, but dance teaching, it comes from the heart. And you give all of your energy with dance teaching. And that's a beautiful thing because it's so important to you. But at the same time, like if we're doing this time and time again, it can really start to weigh on us because we're just taking so much time and energy out of ourselves for others. And again, a huge vision as to why I wanted to start Dance Teacher Pep Talk was to remind us of the things that we can do to keep us in the best mindset we can have through our seasons. And so for me, this is my, I'm putting quotes around it, burnout story. And so to start, I just Googled the definition of burnout just because I was curious. And burnout is the physical or mental collapse caused by overwork or stress. So, hearing those words, overwork and stress, I can definitely equate to things that I was going through. Now, for me, certain parts and traits of my character, I feel like definitely led more towards burnout because I'm someone who really values hard work, and for a long time like really valued the hustle, and I felt like if I wasn't doing something for dance, then it really didn't have a place or space for myself. And I even just talked about this in my slow September episode too. So the things that came up for me, and I'm actually pulling up a note in my phone that was from the time of my burnout, and here we go. So, what did it mean for me? I was so tired of reinventing the wheel, trying so hard to be hip and current. And I do feel like social media was a big part of that because just as these dancers wanted to be the next it dancer, I too was vying and losing sight of myself and trying to fulfill the hopes that I had for them and wanting to be the best I could be, and finding like I didn't have any new ways of doing that. Feeling like I had tried everything, nothing else was bringing me inspiration, and it was a really like a stuck point. And it became this thing of I wasn't even sure that I wanted to teach dance or have dance in my life anymore. And I was almost like Like I almost thought I'm the type of person where it's either I'm all in or I'm all out. Like I can't have parts of myself in one space or another. Like it was going to be, do I dance? Do I teach dance or do I not? Like it was very cut and dry. I wasn't looking to cut back. And so for me, that was something that like probably made my burnout even more difficult because I was thinking of a complete and total stop. And I do want to say this too before going any further in this episode. My students were never, ever the cause of my burnout. I absolutely look back on every year of teaching, and what kept me going was the students. My love for dance maybe had some ebbs and flows, but the students were always my tried and true. And they were what continued to make me want to do better. And so when I do say the things like, I was trying to be hip and current and trying to do the things that would help them the most. It wasn't out of resentment or anything like that. It was really me being stuck and me feeling like I was doing a disservice. And so that's kind of what I meant by that. And so I also know on the flip side though, sometimes maybe like student difficulties could cause you difficulty in your career as well. So I do see that as being something that could happen. But for me, that was definitely not the case. And the other thing about this is if you were an outside person looking in, I don't think that you would have had any idea that I was struggling the way that I was. And it's because, like I said, I cared so much about my students. I cared so much about their progress in their lives and me being an influence in their lives that I really tried to always come in the door as best as I could. But there were days that I didn't want to go in the door. There were days that I really had a deep, difficult time getting myself to the studio. And I don't know if you've ever experienced periods of time like this or long periods of time or whatnot, but it was so, so strange to me because people would say, like, you love dance. You've danced since you were a child. Like, dance has been your whole life. Like, you were made to dance. You were made to be a part of this. And when you work a job that is a passionate job and a job from the heart, I can see why people would think like, oh, like you couldn't be burnt out. You love what you do. Like or you were made for this and stuff like that. But like it doesn't matter like how passionate and how much care and love that you have for something in the world, the overwork and stress and everything that compounds, you absolutely can face burnout and you absolutely can face low inspiration periods. So if anyone ever says that to you, like don't let that be something that's going to hold you back or upset you further because it doesn't matter how much you love dance and all variables set aside, there is so much that affects us physically and mentally within the job that we do, as I mentioned, because of the energy that we give out. So in my burnout, things that were happening were like ideas started not to flow. I felt like I was doing the same class every year over and over, same structure, same thing. I was looking out, trying to do more challenging things for the dancers, trying to bring in new songs, trying to be hip, trying to be current, comparing myself to other teachers, and just having this moment of complete lack of self worth. I just really felt like a lack of so much. And it's so hard to look back and see that because, now I just think, my gosh, you have such an incredible opportunity in this life to do what you do and to have all that you have. And it just, yeah, I just look back and I know it was so difficult. I don't know if you've ever had that feeling where you really decide like, I don't know if I can go in. I don't know if I can teach today. I don't know if I can pull out the energy that I am needing to get through this night. And especially when things are feeling monotonous and you can't think of the next thing to bring an idea forward. So, looking back, I have a couple like reflections now about things that maybe I had been going through, and also now what helped me to get out of that burnout period. And so, this was a time in my life where, okay, I was about to turn 30 and I feel like that's like a big thing. Like, okay, like decades, whatever. Like, you turn 20, you turn 30, you turn 40. Like I feel like I don't have such an attachment to like the decade itself, but I do feel like maybe like subconsciously I did. Okay, I'm going to be 30. What is it that I am doing with my life? Am I doing enough? Is what I'm bringing important? Do I have purpose? What is my soul purpose? What is my life purpose? So it's like you ask these big questions sometimes at different times in your life, and 30 was definitely a big one for me. And then, like, also, too, like, if you're into astrology or anything like that, I do realize that I was also going through my Saturn return at the time. And if you don't know what that is, you can just look it up. But it's just kind of a pivotal point in your life where you do come across some of these questions. And it was really, it just, looking back, it just was so evident what was happening. But when I was in it, I just had no idea. And I just thought that I was just, really struggling. And the hard part is too, is when you're struggling, it's like, it's really hard to see a way out, or it's really hard to see, like, okay, I need to flip the switch and tomorrow's going to be a better day and I'm just going to wake up and everything's going to be amazing and I'm going to go into the studio and teach the best classes and give the best choreography. Like, it's really hard to flip that switch. So some things that happened for me that did help me to flip the switch was I went on like a full-on soul search that year. So I wasn't 30 yet, but it was leading up to turning 30. And I am just so grateful and thankful that my life took the path that it did, because nothing spurred it, nothing particularly came about. Like, no one said to me, "Hey, Amanda, like, you should read this book," or like, "Hey, Amanda, you should try this." And I am just so, like, it was an amazing situation where, like, I just knew what to do and I just did it, or it just like all started to happen. I should also mention though, like, aside of this too, like the other part of my burnout was also like a physical burnout. I had some pretty severe hip injuries around this time in my life, and also some back issues and stuff coming back, from the doctors, like, wasn't great. And I was starting to do, cortisone injections. I was going to different physical therapists. I was having different treatments done, and I was just in a lot of pain. And if you've ever been in pain before, like how debilitating it is, not only physically but mentally, because as a dance teacher, like, having pain is just is you I mean, soreness is a regular part of your life. So like having pain, that can be so so difficult. And so I do feel that a part of my burnout was also the physical pain that I was going through. So because of the physical pain that I was in, I wasn't really able to do like a lot of the things that I had done prior to the injuries that I was having. And so I had to find different avenues and different routes to keep my body moving. As I've mentioned before, movement has always been important to me, whether it's dance or other types, and it's always something that makes me feel good. So I had to find ways to move, and that is when I really started to find a love for yoga. And it literally just started in the comfort of my own home. Like, I started watching different people on YouTube. I started like really finding a vibe with certain instructors online that I really enjoyed. And so I even at times attended classes, and it was like this really big opening for me, because it was almost like I could breathe again. I started to breathe again, and finding yoga was very helpful, because then I started to find some different elements that I felt really called to like bring into my warm-ups and bring into my space. And even I noticed that the way that I began speaking about things in my classes changed. Different things became important to me. It wasn't so important that I was achieving certain results with movement. It was more important to me that at the end of the day, the dancers felt something, or they made some kind of an emotional connection to the work that they were doing. And that that was a big big change for me, because I think it's really easy, especially like if you are in like the competitive world of dance, to just be like pushing and pushing and pushing and like, let's go, we got to drill that, drill this, drill that. And like, of course there's like time and space for that, but I started to like really reflect on like what was important to me and the memories that I had in dance. And so I realized, like, looking back at my dance in my youth and my dance, education, I realized that like I could not remember the times that I achieved certain skills. Like, I don't remember the day that I got to leap. I don't remember the day that I got my first pirouette nice and clean. I don't remember the day that I learned a certain new move. I don't remember any of those days. But the days that I do remember are days that we did meaningful lessons in our classes, or we had an incredible moment as a team. And I always tell my competition dancers too that I don't remember any of the awards we received. Like if you told me like, "Hey, remember you did Hot Lunch Jam in 7th grade and you competed at such and such a competition? What medal did you get for that?" I could not tell you. But I could tell you how excited we felt about the piece that we had. I could tell you the memories that we had from rehearsals or the fun times, the good times. But I can't tell the measures or like the metrics, like the hard facts around things. I remembered the feelings. And when I remembered that, everything changed because I realized that I have all the tools that I need as a dance teacher. I've had great results with the way that I'm teaching different skills and movements and things like that. And so instead of me trying to reinvent the wheel, what I needed to do was just get in touch with the life in dance, get in touch with those special moments and making an impact. Remember when you're watching your youngest dancers and you see them start to skip? Like they really are starting to get the skip. And to us it just seems like such a simple task, like skipping. It's one of the first skills that maybe we look at in our youngest dancers. And when they skip, the that is the moment, that moment when they feel good about what they're doing, that is the achievement. The skip is the measure, like okay, they're doing their skips and stuff, but the feeling that they get from realizing that they're doing it, that that is the achievement. And so for me, how to create lasting depth for a student, I feel creates more longevity, and that we as teachers should look at that in the same way. So it's not about the measures, it's not about the skills. And maybe I had to kind of step outside of myself and change my values a little bit around what I felt was most important in dance. And so, was it most important for me that every single dancer in this level of jazz got their double pirouette by such and such a date? Or was it more important to me that I focused on how they were feeling along the way? And it really did come down to the feeling. So, in order to take this even a step further, I started to think about three different words, and those words were authenticity, integrity, and dedication. And I thought about those words for myself, and I also thought about them for my dancers. So, when we're entering this space, like what is our authentic energy that we're bringing in? And what are we working hard towards? And what are we sticking by no matter what? And I really started too to think about what is pertinent to my students right now. What is pertinent to me? Like, was I really going to pull out a lesson that I had done the previous year because it worked well and got good results? Or was I going to think about like what's going on right now in our lives? What's going on in our around us? And how can I incorporate really making things matter? Was I going to push a class wicked hard on the week of finals? Was the recital choreography that important to get in on a time where their brains were already full to the max? I really started looking at a whole student teaching approach. And that, like, I know I said this time and time again in this episode, but that is really where it changed everything for me because I think I really did like step out of myself and I woke up to how I could better be of service to my students. And that was a massive change. So, the other things that really helped me too is I made sure to talk about how I was feeling. I knew I was not the first dance teacher in the world to feel what I was feeling. And so I reached out to people that I knew would take the time to listen and to care and to give me feedback, advice, or even just a listening ear. And I'm so grateful that I did that because I think the encouragement that I received from friends just really helped me to continue on and helped me to start to piece things together. So the yoga journey was a big part of it because it wasn't just a movement, it was how I was beginning to speak. And I started reading different books and understanding different subject matters, and I was finding more for myself. It wasn't just like what I am as a dance teacher. It was who I am as a person. And with the help of my friends, my dance teacher friends, I was able to also connect the dots on that too. So by taking the time to find myself, I was able to then bring that into the space. And alongside this, something really interesting happened. So I started going pretty good. Like things were getting better. I was really like finding my groove. Things were awesome. I was really starting to enjoy what I was doing again. And then we had the pandemic. And that was like maybe a couple years or so after me really finding my groove again. And instead of sidelining myself, like for many, I feel like the pandemic kind of did that. It was like everything shut down, and like so did our hopes for our passions. It actually fueled me further. And it actually, like, it, I think it fully pulled me out of the burnout that I was feeling. And I know that for sure that is not true for everybody. So I do understand that. So I don't know if it was like the break, even though I kept going. Like, I mean, Zoom, we were teaching on Zoom, we were doing our thing. Um, I did find a change there. And so taking a break, I understand too, that can be extremely difficult because I know that dance teaching is not the most financially lucrative career path. And so it's hard to say to someone like, okay, you're burnt out. Why don't you cut back on your classes? Or why don't you take some time off? It's like, how? I mean, this is our livelihood. Yeah, dance is a fun thing for us, but like it's also how we make our money. So, that I know can be difficult too. Like it's not easy to take a break. So I understand that as well. But yeah, so the pandemic happened, and instead of it pulling me aside, I actually found more room for growth because more things became open and available to me. I looked at dance and just looked at all the time that I was in the studio and that I was planning for my days at the studio and how much time and how much life I was giving to this. And now, with everything shutting down, it's like we all slowed down, and when we slowed down, I found that I was still getting the work done. Things were still happening. And it wasn't the pace that I should have been keeping. I really did need to slow down and to realize that I could still do so much and allow myself to have more life in my days. And I know I talked about this a lot in the Slow September episode too, but beyond things slowing down, it also showed me a whole new avenue of where dance could go. I mean, before this, dance was, like I said, it was in the studio, and that was it. And convention was at the convention centers or at the hotels, and that was it. And yeah, it was really hard not having dance in person. I will say that, but learning about the virtual world and how dance can be a part of the virtual world was a huge eye opener for me because so many different things opened up. I can take classes online in the comfort of my own home. I can take really interesting continuing ed courses in the comfort of my own home. I can teach, I can guide, I can speak through different items using Zoom or using virtual. And I know virtual is not for everybody, but the fact that this really opened up so many different channels for myself, I just felt like there became new hope, there became new ideas. I mean, dancers from one side of the country could start taking private lessons with a teacher from the other side of the country. And there were so many things that came of it despite it being an extremely difficult time, there were so many things that came of it that just I feel like has expanded the dance world beyond what we ever thought possible. I mean, now you can create courses and you could reach anyone across the globe with the course that you create. And there's just so much out there now that's available to us to not only expand our knowledge as dance teachers, but to also give our voices out. I mean, I would not have thought about a podcast, doing a podcast before this. I mean, yeah, I listen to podcasts, and I will say that podcasts also helped me out of my burnout. Um, but I never would have ever thought of myself doing it. And, along with the books that I was reading, I should mention that too. Like, I was reading some books that I felt really helped me to understand different outlooks on life and purpose. I also listened to a lot of podcasts. And so preparing for my day, instead of like jam packing my day with music and this and that, I started throwing in some podcasts in there, and having that inspiring content also made me, I feel, teach my classes a lot differently too. Because there was more purpose, there was more value, there was more things going into it than just the steps. And then once we went back into the studio after everything, I just felt such a sense of gratitude for being back and for having the ability to be present and to be in the space with dancers again. And I I don't want to say I took for granted being in the space, but maybe to a degree I did, especially in my burnout because I wasn't feeling inspired to go. I had no idea that there would ever be a day that like we wouldn't be able to go in. And so it really like renewed my sense of gratitude and just my love and what I want to continue to pass on to dancers and, just living the values that I feel are so important. And so something that really helped me looking back on all this, getting out of my burnout, is seeking things outside of dance to inspire you. Because when you're in dance and you're in the headspace of dance and you try to fill yourself with more dance, it's almost like that maybe that's when the comparison starts coming in. Maybe that's when the feeling like you can't reinvent the wheel or like that idea has already been done or how am I going to bring this in there or this person already did that you know, find outside sources for inspiration, and you'll be amazed at what that can bring to your class because that brings life into your class. And so, whether it's another movement practice, whether it's books that you're reading, whether it's time that you've taken out in nature, whether it's like places that you're traveling to, people that you're talking with or meeting with, or things that you're experiencing, there is so much life in that. And all of that life can then be brought into your dancing and it can create for just like such an overall connected and deeply purposeful feeling. So if you're ever feeling that feeling like I can't go in or I can't teach tonight or I have nothing left in me, I totally understand that feeling. And there are ways that you can come out of this, even though it might feel so difficult at times. So, if you can take a break, if you can talk with friends, if you can find things outside of dance to inspire you, I just think there's so much worth and value in that. And it's actually only going to make you a better teacher. And the fact that you're even working and trying to pull out of the burnout just shows your love in your heart space for dance as well. Because if you wanted to leave or quit, you just would. And that's okay too. And for some people, maybe that is their journey. And we can't really judge that unless we're in that. And so giving other outside things a chance to inspire you might be so helpful. And just like for me, realizing and coming to an understanding that I needed to stop comparing, that there was only one me and there was ever only going to be one me. And that if my dancers were coming into my class and feeling happy and feeling like they were leaving with something important, even if it wasn't that they're coming in happy, like I shouldn't, that's not really the emotion that I want to say, but like that they were coming in feeling safe and supported in my classroom and then leaving feeling inspired or feeling a growth or even just feeling a step of something, that to me was doing my job and was doing my purpose. And I think that we can all learn a little bit from that. We are very lucky to live in a day and age where there are so many resources available. So, if you don't have a friend to talk to about situations like this, there are a lot of different dance specialists out there online that you can find resources for burnout, other things that are going to help your mental health in the dance realm. And thinking back to those times as a child when you maybe you've wanted to be a dance teacher since you were young, and I think about myself as a child, and I used to play dance class and dance school all the time and would put on fun performances or like little things for my family and made my sister and everybody get involved in it. And that that young joy and just extreme fun outlook on dance also reminded me of how to re-spark that and reignite that within myself after all the difficult feelings that I was going through around overwork and the stress that came of it. And I mentioned that for me, it wasn't people that affected my burnout. It was just like myself. It really was just myself. But if you're in an instance where others might be playing a part in your burnout, something that is really helpful to me in difficult situations is anytime people are bringing difficult energies to you or difficult statements or things that are really hard for you to answer, respond to, or like even think upon, that is all them. And you may try and try to make everyone happy, but it's really difficult to do that. And so realizing that what is brought to you is a reflection of other people and not necessarily yourself. And sometimes the upset or the things that are happening on your end of things, those might be deeper things that you want to look into personally. Because why is it that we're being affected by certain things? I think that's something that we should always go into the work of. And so for me, if something ever angers me, like, I mean, this is just life in general, it's not necessarily even dance, but if something like angers me, upsets me, or like gets me like really worked up, I like stop and I think about, well, I mean, it might take me some time because you really do want to work through those emotions, but I may stop and just kind of like think about like, what is the root of this? Like, what is it that is really bothering me about this? Is it the surface level question that like came my way, or is it deeply rooted in something else? And so taking the time to process that way has been a huge change for me, and also I think just comes with maturity and deeper understanding of yourself as self. And so, if your burnout is becoming a thing because of other people's energies at you, separate it. Make boundaries, stand your ground because you are the one self that you will ever be and will ever have. And there is so much respect that comes with that because if you're being true to you, what else can you do? You know, like that's your truth. And I think there's just so many levels and different facets to burnout and just to like this subject in general. And I couldn't get into all of them today. I could only speak on my personal story and also things that I've learned along the way. But if burnout is something you're experiencing, there is hope and there are ways to help you to reignite and re inspire, even if it takes a while. And even if it's a new avenue for yourself, there is endless opportunities available to you. And living in your truth, living in your true self, I really believe is going to always feel important to you because you're living from your heart. So I hope that this episode helps others that may be going through difficult times or may help to bring validation to others that have had difficult situations in the past. And my vision and hopes for Dance Teacher Pep Talk is to help provide that inspirational content or new, fresh ideas that may help you to get through your low inspiration moments. And even on good days, maybe it'll provide some hope and some light in whatever it is that you're needing. So I hope you continue to check back frequently for episodes. We launch every Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I hope that these episodes are helping to bring you clarity and freshness and anything it is that you're needing. So I just want to thank you so much for your listening and for all of your love and support. I hope that you have an incredible day and a beautiful rest of your week ahead. Thanks, everybody.